But assessments are different than grading. Assessments are checking for understanding. Like I'm checking for understanding all the time when my students are learning rhetoric. Do you know what ethos, pathos, and logos are? I can check those off very quickly. Right? That is what you would automate to the AI, those things that you can quickly do. Turn it into a game, an AI-generated game that scores points and gives them what they need for the class. Moving on, yeah. Scheduling, enabling educators to focus more on valuable activities like student engagement and mentoring. So imagine that you could put away some of that grading that you're doing, some of that assessing. What would you do with that time? Like, I know what I would do with that time. I'd devote it to those students in the class who need me more. I would spend more time with them, drafting, doing more examples, going over more writing, just really working with them in some capacity. So increased efficiency and improved learning outcomes are one possibility. Real-time insights are the other thing, which we all know now about data, is that you have a lot of it and it's useful to you only when you can do something with it. So that's where AI comes in. Really, that's where it's going to shine. Enabling educators to make data-driven decisions. And I think our entire administration would definitely agree that that is the way to go, right? We've been looking at these data sets for a while now. So who is our student population? How do we serve them best? Now, here is a section on real-world examples of AI in education. Georgia State University had the Panther retention grants. And what they did was increase graduation rates by 5%. Not a bad percentage boost. How did it happen? Well, you had to have AI parse the student information, sort of see who was there and who needed assistance. It was preemptive. So I did add these links here for those of you that want more information, and we'll go through some of these. But here was the challenge, just so you can really understand. Many students at GSU were dropping out due to small financial shortfalls. Despite being academically successful, these students faced obstacles that hindered their path to graduation. So what was AI's role in that solution? Well, GSU leveraged AI and predictive analytics to proactively identify students at risk. That's it. They caught them early and said, you may face an issue. Let me give you a scholarship. Let me give you a grant of some kind. And it worked, right? Panther retention grants based on AI-driven insights. They provided this 5% boost. This proactive AI-guided approach ensured the support reached those who needed it most in a timely manner. And so this is one example of, well, what can we do with it? It's not this crazy thing that has to take over your entire classroom experience, but at the campus level, it can be integrated in really cool ways. So this is one example, right? So a 5% boost in graduation rates, is that a desirable outcome? You tell me, right? Arizona State University had the AI-powered learning system, which sounds great. I want one of those. What does it do? Well, pilot users earned higher test scores and completed coursework 20% faster. Is that a desirable outcome? Right? You tell me, right? So 20% faster, okay, speed gonna guarantee that they got it. Well, it says that the scores were also higher. So, okay, this is a tool then that allows us to increase our efficiency, increase student test scores, and gain more time with those that need us, as far as I'm concerned so far. Now, to give you more on that one, with its large, diverse student population, it faced challenges in promptly addressing a myriad of student queries related to admissions, academic guidance, and university life. They aim to provide instant, efficient, and consistent support to every student. So what do? They created a chatbot. So an AI-powered chatbot, kind of like Clippy. You guys remember the little clip that used to help us out in Microsoft, right? Basically that. The tools are capable of understanding and responding to student queries in real time, learning from past interactions, providing personalized guidance. So it's like you, as a bot, helping a student always, because the bots don't sleep, and students can be up middle of the night talking to the bot if they need to get any information and do something class related. So admissions and onboarding. AI systems guide prospective students through the maze of the admissions process. Financial aid, registration, and initial campus orientation. So does that mean that we replace all of those human agents? I don't think that we should, because we need them on campus. We need them doing stuff here for the students. We need them creating events, creating hype, creating energy on the ground. But if you've got an AI assistant that takes care of the internet and takes care of the digital world, I think that's a great tool. So clearly a 20% increase for me would be fantastic. Final example here is the University of Michigan, which did venture into the realm of automated essay scoring. What did they find? AI tools provided reliable and valid scores compared to human graders, which makes sense when you really think about how we norm these materials, right? We get together, we all evaluate them, we norm them 1 through 5 or whatever we choose. We sort of determine this is the ideal response and this is not, and this is not. And then it's basically doing the same thing as a template. It's just running it in the background automatically, right? So, cool. Now, what did they do? The challenge was, with a large number of students, the University of Michigan grappled with the timely grading of student essays, something I can vouch for. So much time goes into assessment, grading, feedback, writing responses. And I was even telling my students this was it yesterday? I said, how many of you actually look at the feedback? And one of them looked me dead in the eye. Was like, honestly, I'm like, A, moving on. Like, but I spent minutes writing out some feedback for you that let's say you got a B, and like I'm like, here's how you get the A, and you didn't even look at it. You're like, B, moving on. So okay, fine, fair. If that's how students want to play it, can we use this tool to speed that part along, but then not hurt those who actually need us? Like really devote time to those who are there. We know who they are. They come to office hours. They stay after class. They're asking questions. They're here for the assistance. They get the massive support. They get the most support. Is my personal sort of view of how this is going to shape the classroom. It's going to give us back some time that we can reappropriate in some way and push it back into the classroom to help students. So AI algorithms are capable of analyzing text now, understanding its structure, grammar, coherence, and content. So we're no longer talking about just repeating stuff. And yes, learning models mainly operate by just predictive text, so they just tell you what's coming next and what sounds good. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to get more complex and that people aren't building stuff with them that is more complex. So good results. Broader implications, the success of the university's experiment underscores the potential of AI in academic assessments. It propels a conversation on the balance between automation and human touch. But that's just it. See, it's not a done conversation. It has to be one that we have. Like, where is that balance, and how do we strike an effective one for students, where they feel supported, but we don't feel like we're losing time on some of those things that students don't actually pay attention to? So how do we get it? I think the AI bots would be an interesting solution. These are some other successful applications of AI, virtual classrooms that are entirely AI driven. I mean, what that would look like is like you could take your entire curriculum, make it sound like you, and it's just up on Canvas like your online class, like your fully online class, but it would have a bot that sounds like you and talks like you and teaches like you. Maybe we have to figure out what that would look like as far as, do we get paid for those hours that those bots are operating? I don't know. We'll get there, but the chatbots was the other one. So here's a good example of what those could look like. You have an app on your phone that just could be the Miramar chatbot app, right? Or the Guided Pathways app that uses AI to streamline your process through. Smart content personalization, so AI can personalize student data and personalize content to just resources, identify gaps in knowledge, stuff that you can do when you can just prompt a learning model. And remote learning, it can facilitate remote learning by providing tools like this one. This is an AI tool. So let's keep going here. How do we save it? You can't. If you're looking at these tools, it's like, oh, it's game over, got it. Because even just a base Word document is now integrated with AI. How many of us don't issue like hey, use Grammarly, students, if you'd like. Before AI integration, that was not polemical at all. Now with AI integration, it's like, is it doing the writing is it editing for you? Is this going to be plagiarism? How is this going to work? I think all those conversations take us in the wrong direction. I think the idea that these tools are now integrated into these base elements like Word documents just shows you that maybe the time for students to learn how to create sentences in this way is over. Maybe it's we're coming to the time of the calculator. I don't have to know how to do this base calculation because I have a device that can do it. But I should still be able to reason at a certain level and still be able to do certain things. So, keep this in mind. It is still an open discussion, but this is just 5 tools that we all use. There's 100 other ones that are being added in constantly, some paid services. A lot of these have done it for free, but the point is students have access to AI everywhere. I can't think of one app now that doesn't have an AI function. And that's kind of where we are since April to now. So not that, 5 months, not that long. It moves very fast. So Let's keep going here. And I mean, this is again showing you where they started, right? 2009, 2012. They're not new. They've been there. We just weren't privy to them. We weren't paying attention. It wasn't really that important, but now it is. Because, I mainly teach writing, and I think that's the one profession that is sort of like, is it over? Did we lose because AI is here? I don't think so. I have a lot of hope and passion for the profession. I think rhetoric in itself has never been more important. I like the idea of teaching the classics and the skills that people need to use this properly, because it turns out that the literacy you're learning in using AI is grounded in rhetoric and an understanding of grammar and syntax and grammatical markers. How do you put together an efficient prompt is now the new thing. So the potential writing of AI, as educators, we must consider now the possibilities of AI writing. We just have to. There is no way around it. Personalized email and dynamically generated are two immediate applications. So have you ever wanted to just respond to your emails very quickly? Don't we already kind of have that option, right? When it's like yes or no or awesome, or you type it in and you just hit tab and it just fills in the rest for you, right? It's already there. New writing techniques. As writers, we must consider the ways that AI writing technologies are changing the way we write and how we conceive of ourselves as writing. So what does it mean to write? This is the very conversation that I had with my students week 1, and it was a philosophical discussion because I showed them ChatGPT. I had it produce some writing, and then I asked them, who wrote it? And they were like, well, the bot did. I'm like, well, not really. Someone prompted it. What does that mean? And if you prompted it differently, would it have produced something else? And et cetera, et cetera. How is this new type of composition related to old composition, let's say? And how can you use these tools to empower the old techniques? But we've got new techniques, is the point. Now, new styles and genres too, though. So as professionals, we must consider how the emergence of writing tools opens up new careers and new job opportunities. That is where I think of the students. Not so much us as like, we're professionals here, we're doing what we need to do in the classroom, but if we're going to empower these students for the new economy, this is just something that you have to get very familiar. So let's keep going. New literacies, new rhetorics, prompting then. What is prompting? You want to learn it? There's this great link right here. It's called learnprompting.org. And it literally walks you through everything from step to step to step. It's a great tool. It's got over 60 modules of content. Great resource if you're just curious about this a little bit more. Now, up at the top, I have just a quote from that article. I'm not going to click this button because when you click it, you'll see that it takes you to a video that is associated to that article. What I actually wanted to link was the article, because in the article, it talks about a new job that appeared for an AI prompt engineer for $335,000 a year. So is prompting a desirable new skill? Yes. Anna Bernstein was 29, and she was the only one doing this job. Only one. Are you kidding? There's so many people that could do this job now, and more day to day, because you're just going to have more people learning this literacy. So, if you want to click on this and take a look at it, it really does take you through basics, applications, intermediate, applied prompt. This whole thing is here if you really want to spend some time going through it. It tells you what to prompt. It gives you the output. It shows you end to end how to use this thing. But it is a lot to read. So pace yourself through it. Don't try to do it all at once. Other thing here. Let's keep going to the next one. One second. So some of the challenges, obviously we've been talking a lot of pros. Pros are great. What are the cons, right? So, data privacy. Data privacy concerns arise when using student data to train AI models and personalized content. So we get into some taboo stuff there, some problems there. Who owns the data? How do we manage it? Do we keep it safe? All right, that's data concerns. We're working with data. We'll have good practices in place. We'll have she and our researchers, data focused, really work with that. No issue there as long as we are ethical and transparent with our usage. Equity and accessibility is, AI can perpetuate existing biases and create inequalities among students and institutions. That's a huge one. How many of you are aware of bias in AI? Yeah, absolutely. It's got to be one of those early conversations. You can't avoid it. It goes back to conversations that I had years ago now at the Digital Humanities Group at UCSD with Sophia Noble is her name. She'd written a book called Algorithms of Oppression, and really talking about how these Google algorithms gave these warped results and what was wrong with search queries. And she showed some really good examples of how the searches that you were doing on Google led to results that were very questionable, right? So I won't go into it, but find a good summary of the book. It's a good one to read if you're curious about algorithms and how it relates to AI. And then finally, training and integration. Training and integrating AI models into existing educational ecosystems can be complex and time-consuming. So while I'm saying you'll save time, I'm also saying you'll have to spend a lot of time to save time. It's like early investment, and then later it'll pay off in dividends once it's already there. It's already integrated. It's repetitive now. It's very similar to what I did, though, with my immersive world. I had to sort of front load a lot of work, and now I don't have to do anything to maintain it, right? So it's that type of stuff. If you can do that with your courses, maybe this is something that we have to focus PD on, I mean, we're doing it now by having this conversation, but even what is sabbaticals and things of that nature. Focus on updating your curriculum with these tools, and here's the roadmap for how to do it, right? Because we need that. So training and integration have to be really, really planned for. Other concerns or ethical considerations, right? Educators should address ethical considerations such as data privacy. We're going to talk about that. Informed consent. Do students want their data used this way? And implications of AI for student agency and well-being. So AI is a weird tool we have to use well, let's say. So be responsible, right? Educators should ensure it's developed and deployed responsibly with transparency, fairness, and accountability. Transparency is a big one. Like, it's got to be transparent, decentralized, responsible, fair, and accountable. Again, those are great, great terms. And then diverse representation, again, because it is, once you know that the results that you'll get are flawed because of the prompts that you are issuing, then you'll revise your prompts to get the results that you want. So one clear-cut example is if you type, I don't know, business person into an AI chatbot, you might get a whole lot of white men. But then if you say multi-ethnic or multicultural business person, okay, then I'll get something more varied. But just to know that, you need to throw in that qualifier. You need to throw that in if you want this result or another. Then that's where the literacy comes in. Now, tools and resources. We're nearly to the end here of the sort of discussion part, and then we'll talk a little bit about your insights. We'll talk about what's on the board, the other sort of passive in the background. But this is where I wanted to end this conversation, exploring this a little bit. So this is the document that you hopefully downloaded the link to at the beginning. If not, I can go back to the QR code. But basically, I pulled out the risks and the benefits quote only, and then I pulled out the actual risks and benefits so we can talk about them in specific detail. I'm going to give you some time to review that. I want you to think about the challenges that you already have, the questions that you have, the issues you foresee, some of those things, so we can talk about them. But here is the 4 C's sort of joint understanding of the risks to the classroom, so to students, to teachers, and to the program and profession. So the risks and threats to students, teachers, and the profession are real and profound. Societal conversations are underway as well about the costs of LLMs, including the spread of misinformation, biased outputs, privacy, and copyright violations. So those are all things we have to keep in mind, as well as environmental costs. All of these concerns affect our students and should inform our response as educators. So here are the risks to students. Many students may miss writing, reading, and thinking practice because they submit generative AI outputs as their own work or depend on generative AI summaries of text rather than reading. Absolutely essential in my class. I mean, that's the thing that you're there to do. So if AI can do it for you, what are we doing here, right? So I am not so concerned with that. That is not, it's there. We're going to go through these, but I'm going to show you also how these concerns are addressed. They were addressed in my syllabus policy. And so I talked about that briefly to some of you. We'll talk about that here at the end. But most of these are addressed. And so do you have concerns about students cheating, plagiarizing, using generative writing to submit for your classes? Has anybody already had that? Writing submitted by AI? How about anybody in the chat? I know I have, for sure. So students may not see writing or language study as valuable since machines can mimic these skills. That one's huge, right? Like if they don't want to learn it, why are they going to go to class? what happens to all those transfer level requirements? I could just use AI for everything. I don't really need to do it myself. Again, I'm not really that concerned. Not because it's not a fair concern, but because there's so many ways you can apply AI. It's no different than even a computer in the classroom or this owl that's here in front of us. New technology you have to apply. I don't have a concern about it because I've seen them use it. And when we talk right now about ways that this is addressed, you'll see that it's not really that big an issue. Students understand plagiarism. They understand how they can get into trouble if they don't do the work themselves. And a lot of them I've noticed are here to learn the things they need to learn at a base level that they want to know. I'm having this sort of renaissance of learning in my classes. I don't know if you're experiencing the same, but the students really seem like they're there to learn. Some of them even decry AI, like I'll never use it because I'm better than him. Wonderful, never use it, don't rely on it. But it is there to speed you along if you need it. So students may experience an increased sense of alienation and mistrust if surveillance and detection approach is meant to ensure academic integrity are undertaken. See, that one almost, I should have put that one in green because that shouldn't be a red for me. Right? That is the risk that we that we sort of lean towards as we penalize. Oh, GPT-0 will capture AI usage and don't do it. It's very, right, reprimanding them. That's not the point. Show them how to use it better. And they won't have to do that. They won't have to feel any alienation because you're policing them. Oh, this is 50% AI. No, far too much. 35% allowed. What? You know, that's so strange a metric. I had the same concerns about Turnitin.com and how much of this is original content. I'm like, you're focused on the wrong thing here. But I digress. That for me is a good thing because we don't have to use it that way. We can show them how to do it better. Now, students may face increased linguistic injustice because LLMs promote an uncritical normative reproduction of standardized English usage that aligns with dominant racial and economic power structures. Worldwide, LLMs may also perpetuate this dominance of English. I mean, that's a fair concern, but I have a question about which is the language of current power anyway, when it comes to business in the world. The Mandarin's on the rise, but it's still English. It has been for the last how many years, right? So if that's still the case, is dominance in English an undesirable thing? Now, as far as uncritical normative reproduction of standardized language, that's what we're there to talk about in the class in the first place. Don't reproduce language standardly this way for this or that reason. That is the reasoning part of using language is what doesn't go away. Just because this thing does it very fast doesn't mean you have to go that fast. You can slow down. You have a tool that speeds you up, take your time, you know, slow it down. So students finally may have unequal access to most of these tools, since some students and institutions will be able to purchase more sophisticated versions of these technologies, which may replicate societal inequities. Now, I've got another interest in the metaverse, and I could tell you right there that to bring the metaverse to a campus like this would be way too expensive for the value proposition. But there are campuses who are integrating Victory XR, Dreamscape, whatever, immersive experiences into their college curriculum, creating what are mirror campuses of the school. So imagine like we'd be in the same room, but inside the computer, and it would look exactly as it looks. It would be mirror copy. There probably wouldn't be a me up here. Maybe I'd just be like a disc or a face that can talk to you, but it doesn't matter. It'd be like in a video game, listening to the lecture. I can show you my immersive space a little bit later when we leave. I think some of you have seen it. But the point is, to do that, how do you engage them? How do you teach them these tools? These students won't know about them or know how to use them if they don't know that they exist or they're being used or they're desirable in new economies, but they are. So the risk to students are there.
Just
yes,
to jump in with a comment
Yes.
from the chat. Angela mentioned to the question that you asked about if people have seen AI written submissions. So Angela has, and she said that her current policy is that it's okay to use, but that students should be citing it, and to please reference the APA citation for AI. And she's curious to hear thoughts on that.
Yes, I will actually address that directly after this section. I can skip ahead though, because that is a very, very important point. This is my AI policy. So if you're comparing it to yours, it's a fair comparison. Let's actually do that and talk about what we're doing in these policies and why they deserve to be there in the first place. So yes, I will go back to the other risks, but really that document is there for your own consumption, and it's the document that you have available through the QR code. So if you don't go back to it now, Not a huge problem. Really, the best thing it offers you is a definition and those risks and benefits. And we're addressing those specifically here. I'd say 90% of those risks are addressed by these three policies. And so I'd love to hear if you have policies in place that sort of mirror all of these 3 points, or maybe only 2 of them, right? But what are my policy points? Artificial intelligence is one of the emerging Web3 tools that promises to shake up both the academic and professional landscape. Regardless of how you feel about it, learning to use it well is an emerging and valuable skill. That being said, you can expect to use AI in my classes, ChatGPT and Midjourney AI at a minimum. Please be aware. And so these 3 things are the things to be aware of. Number 1, if you provide minimum prompts, you will get low quality results. So already, what am I telling the students? It's on you how you use this thing. Give me an essay about my experience. There it is. Pretty weak. Be more specific, give more details, ask for dialogue at the very least. You know, how do you use the tool is more related to yourself. You have to work at it. This will take work. You have to learn this new literacy. Number 2, don't trust anything it tells you. Trust it never. Trust it 0 times. Only trust it when you can fact check it, or when you know what the thing is about. Like, I already have the answer, but I had you write it because. Whatever your because is up to you. The point is, can you fact check it? And the important part is, you are responsible for any errors it commits, because that means you didn't double check it. And at the very least, you should have done that. A little proofreading, right? That's one skill you can demonstrate in the class. So how are you using this with more conscious intention is my intention, right? So finally, any use of AI tools, and this sort of reminds me of what you were saying, any use of AI tools must be acknowledged. So you chose APA. I mostly work with MLA, so I'm good with them switching back and forth. But please be sure to include a paragraph at the end of any assignment that uses AI. Anything. Copy paste what you put in, copy paste what it spit out as part of your works cited page. So I'm curious if that sort of is what you're looking to do. I don't know where to look. I'm looking at the
Yes, it sounds like that was very helpful for Angela, and folks are wondering, can they take this? Can we use this?
Yes, of course. I'm actually crediting there Dr. Ethan Malik, whose work I adapted, because again, this is for the sake of transparency and crediting the sources that deserve credit. That's where I found it. And it was mostly my conversations on Twitter, just seeing what others were doing with AI. Spending a lot of time in these circles, people who are just experimenting, trying it out. And so this gentleman, Dr. Ethan Malik, and his wife do a lot of AI research. And so one of the resources that I've linked here as well is a whole paper that has 7 or 8 writing prompts that they actually worked out. It shows you that's what we're going to really work on for the 3rd session when we do, no, 2nd session, the advanced prompt. So that's what we're doing basically for the next one. We're going to go through that. We're going to work at these prompts. We're going to look at the syntax of the statements that they created. And one of the best activities at the end of that is you actually will create your own assessment bot, let's say. So you're going to feed it certain ideas in, and then it will be ready to receive student writing that gives a specific type of feedback back to it. So yeah, absolutely. You can copy this, you can adjust it, revise it, you know. You don't need to credit me, you can credit Dr. Ethan Malik, or credit me as well, totally, whatever, it's up to you. This is academic currency, right? So going back to the risks really quickly, risk to teachers is a big one. Teachers may be asked to make significant changes to their practice without adequate time. Here we are, devoting time to that thing itself, right? So absolutely correct. That there's a lot of work involved, a lot of training, and where does the compensation come from for this labor? Like Josh knows, he's like, what are you doing all this for? I'm like, honestly, I'm passionate about it, so here I am talking about it. This is the only reason I'm up here. This has particular implications for college writing instructors who work in contingent positions or adjuncts, graduate teaching assistants, who make up the vast majority of writing instructors. So do we expect our adjuncts to be doing all of this on their own? I would hope not. But how do we provide that? This is one attempt. So thank you, Laura, for doing all of this. Like one attempt to get this information out there and have them learn how to do it. I think by the end of it, if you come to all 5 sessions, you should definitely be ready to use AI in your classrooms in a number of ways. Number 2 is that teachers may like adequate support and up-to-date training with LLMs. Yep, again, here's why we're here, to talk about these updated things, you know? And teachers will need to spend time and energy developing critical AI literacy. Now that means you have to go into the cave and you actually have to type away and talk to the thing and really get to know it, right? That was one of the weirdest / coolest things that I have done was the day that ChatGPT came out. I just went into the cave and I started talking to it and working with it and giving it my prompts and really trying to see how I could break it. And then I took it into the classroom the next day and I never looked back. So fantastic, fantastic tool from my point of view. Now, this is a big one. The risks to the program and the profession. The public view of writing or language study may be seen as less valuable since machines can mimic these skills. And like everyone's like, yeah, kind of, right? Like sort of. People may believe that generative AI replaces the development of critical thinking, composing, process knowledge, and metacognition that writing helps students develop. And that's where I say, no, sorry, I don't think so. See, when you look at the policy and what it asks students to do with the AI, it's very intentional. It's very conscious. It's not accidental. So you're already applying some of this higher level reasoning to the very process of working with the device. You're also letting them know in conversation that it's a new technology. It's being developed as we go. We're all learning how to use it. There is a base literacy at least. So I think students respond well to that, like sort of candid approach. I don't know how to use this either. Let's find out. We did that activity with the whiteboards. I was telling Josh about it. He told me about whiteboards on Canva. I said, let me try it out. And they loved it. So they like application that is sensible and that helps them even learn together. So I think AI is not a detrimental tool in this way. It can be used that way. I'm just advocating for a different type of research. Institutions may struggle to plan and provide for the kind of labor and resources. So again, here we are doing exactly that. Academic values around giving credit to sources may be compromised. Nay, we just did it a minute ago, right? Credit Dr. Malik for his work. I could have omitted that. But see, I didn't, right? Because the practice is still there to cite and give credit because we know that that's academic currency for us, right? A citation, a publication, someone read your paper, that's all good for it. We need that. Uneven access to AI text generators may increase inequities between scholars of different institutions or countries. Now, this one, I can't get away from. That for me is like, yup, that's it right there. That's the issue. That if we're not putting money into all of this, others will be. Other schools, other countries, other areas mastering this new literacy in a way that we are not because what? Well, uneven access, inequities. We're not providing the right resources to these schools. We're not teaching this new literacy that we need to. And to increase inequities is, I think, the most detrimental application of AI that we can have. For me, if you see my final claim up here, I claim that AI is actually a tool for equity, not the opposite, but it can be used against it. So this is a dangerous sword that you have to wield with care. Now, the rapid changes in the technology and tools available will make it difficult to institutions to keep policies updated. Not if you're integrating AI to help you do that. But you have to be doing that already. See? The variation in policies among instructors, departments, and institutions can make it hard for students to anticipate what writing skills and practices will be needed or acceptable in their next class. That's a huge one too. Now, how do we solve this one, including what we're doing here today? Aren't we trying to norm it? Aren't we trying to figure out a way of doing it collectively and together, right? We need our departments, our institutions, our instructors to all be on the same page about it. So we're trying to get on a page of let's use this ethically and responsibly. Let's not pretend like it's not there. And so that policy just being in the syllabus lets my students know whether I know about it or not, he does. And so there is no inherent, I'm going to trick the professor by using AI. They're scared of it more than me because they know he's heard it. He knows what it sounds like. Maybe I'm going to get caught and I'd rather not. So there are ways of policing, I suppose, if you want to do that, but more being the warm commander. Let them know why you want them to do the right. Let them know why the machine shouldn't do it, right? The machine could do it, but I'm not grading the machine. I'm not assessing the machine. The machine I know can do it. Can you do it is my question, right? So that doesn't change. Now, contingent faculty may be excluded from top-down decision-making on generative AI, simultaneously be expected to carry out labor-intensive policies and teach critical AI literacy. How do you teach it if you yourself haven't learned it well? But it's the danger that we would have these expectations placed on our educators without giving them adequate training. So again, this is my way of bringing the conversation up to the front and saying, here's where we are at least, let's talk about it. And for an entire semester, it felt like I was the only one sort of talking about it, doing anything with AI. And now it's like, oh, every other school is doing something with it, and every other business is doing something with it. So let's actually start doing something with it ourselves as well. Academic administrators may seek to increase class sizes or modify workloads based on or perceived efficiencies created by AI. This is another huge issue. And I say here too that anyone who calls for larger class sizes because I have an AI bot helping me to grade is simply, again, not understanding the dilemma that we were trying to solve in the first place, which is that we don't have enough time and we need that time for those who need us in the classroom. And so, to say, well, you have 50 more students now because you have an AI chatbot that can grade really fast. I'm sorry, you have kept my workload the same. You have not provided me any more time to serve my community. So I think that is important to consider, and we definitely need to push back on any sort of that being the way AI takes the conversation. Finally, reliance on AI-generated analysis and writing by scholars can undermine the wide range of research practices, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So now we run the risk of how are we going to use it unethically for publications? Because we have to produce content too if you are of that sort of, I want to write, I want to publish, I want to, et cetera, right? Are you going to use AI? And if you do, are you going to be transparent about it? Now, I try to be transparent about every time that I use AI. That's why I told you that this presentation was created with an AI bot. Or if I use ChatGPT for something, I tell students, this is how I made it. When I go into my Canvas shell, there's a lot of artwork there. That's Midjourney. That is not me. It's my prompting, but it's artwork. You've got to be clear about who is doing what, and so there's not an over-reliance on it. There is good usage of it. Now, the bad stuff's over, and let's go past bad stuff's done. And we challenge some of the bad stuff anyway, but now the good stuff. While acknowledging the inherent pitfalls of AI, the technology does have some benefits. One, it can democratize writing. Interesting. It allows almost anyone, regardless of educational background, socioeconomic advantages, and specialized skills, to participate in a wide range of discourse communities. I'm sorry, but that to me sounds like a tool for equity. All these people are now part of this conversation that they couldn't be part of before because they lack language skills. But now the machine does the writing. Is the reasoning effective? Right? That's what we need to focus on. These technologies, for example, provide potential benefits to student writers who are disabled, who speak languages other than English, who are first-generation college students unfamiliar with the conventions of academic writing, or who struggle with anxiety about beginning a writing project. They also augment the drafting and revising processes of writers for a variety of purposes. So, this is hopeful about certain communities that it empowers and the ones that it, quote unquote, could put at risk, not if they're shown to use technology properly. So it's all in practice, right? And also showing them how you use it. I think it would be an interesting thing to, teach an entire class on AI usage and then walk in and have you used it? It's like, well, you got to get out there and use it yourself to talk about it, right? So get out there, show them that you're using it too. Now, what are the benefits to language instruction? Language students can use LLMs to create translations that include explanations and wording options. So we know translations are faulty. We know translations can lead to misunderstandings, mistranslations, etc. Well, have the thing translated to you 3-4 times and have it simplified each time. Hey, that was like a 600-word response. Can you please give me that in 100? Thanks. It can do that. It can synthesize for you. Take a complex 10-page essay and you tell it, extract the main 5 points for me. Here you go. That's what it does. That's what I do now, by the way. Whenever I have a new article or something that I want to have students read, I'm like, it's a new article. I haven't read it. Do I sit here and read the whole thing, create some questions myself, or run it through ChatGPT and tell it, give me some discussion questions for that article? I'm still going to read it in class with my students. We're still going to talk about it in class and divide up into groups and do activities with it. But I didn't have to write those questions. I did double check them though. I proofread them though. I added 1 or 2 that were missing, that it lacked. I rephrased them if they weren't exactly what I needed. That's the point. It speeds you along that way. Now, language students can develop expertise even while using generative AI, although it may be used to produce a rough draft of a translation. Refining such translations will still require knowledge about language choices. So again, you're still creating it. You're still writing a story. Do you still have a rising action? Do you still have a moment of climax? Do you still have a tragic death? Do you still have what exactly is the story that you're writing? How does this serve that purpose? Not detract from it. Language students can ask LLMs questions about a text in another language. How many students don't you have that speak multiple languages? If they could take your instruction, right, your write this paper instruction, and translate that to their native language, and just here's what it meant. Got it. I can't tell you how many times I use Spanish to understand English. I do all the time. Like take an English word, think of it in Spanish, and it helps me understand what is going on with that word. So I think this is a great practice. You're also showing students to be more intentional about their language use. Hey, think about it more deeply, right? Assess it, think about it. Now, benefits for literary studies. Students can use LLMs as instruments for creative wordplay. Students with a range of technical expertise can use LLMs to prompt things to happen, including the production of code, by the way, which we haven't gotten to. That's a big old can of worms right there. Because LLMs are now at the point where not only can they spit out words, they can spit out functional code. So you can tell it literally, create an app that tracks my workouts. And it would go, here's the thing you need to run through the engine to have your app. Let's create an app that keeps track of this and that. Here's the base code, now run it through the engine that powers the app. We're getting to that crazy level now. So again, how can we bring that into the classroom? How can we empower students with these new insights? Teachers can train and prompt LLMs to respond to specific literary passages as an aid to class discussions. This is exactly what I just said I was doing. See, before this came out, I literally have read the article Literature as Equipment for Living by Kenneth Berg like 1,000 times. But there's stuff that I miss. There's stuff that maybe we don't focus on for a class discussion. So I ask AI, extract the main points, and I give those to my students. Here you go, these are the main points. It's not about finding the main points, it's about thinking why these are the main points. What are the key insights? What do we do with those? How do we apply them? So even if they have the answers in the back of the book, well, can they produce the answers in the back of the book? Is my question, right? Teachers of literature can use LLMs to produce imitations of author styles and thematic concerns, assisting with lessons in the topic. Oh my God, if only I had that dystopian chapter on that one book, but I forgot it. Okay, hey GPT, write a dystopian paragraph that mirrors 1984. Here it is, brand new writing. Great. Now give that to your students in the classroom, have them analyze it, right? That's what we're talking about. Teachers and students can use LLMs to produce texts following established or innovative constraints, such as meter, rhyme, alliteration, poetic narrative, forms. Give me a villanelle is not a command method. Sorry, you can't write villanelles. It's very limited to this capacity, but it can produce other forms of poetry. Now, teachers and students can use LLMs to produce sample text following established or innovative constraints. In the art realm, I know that we were talking about using Van Gogh style to create this piano, let's say. Boom, it would create it in that style. Great. Right. So how do you use it innovatively with certain constraints in mind? I want this many words. I want this much dialogue, this much analysis, this much whatever you're looking for. Two more things. Students can use LLMs to provide basic interpretations of text. Again, something that I mentioned doing. And students and teachers can ask LLMs about literary works dealing with similar themes. I did that just before this presentation, but I didn't use any quotes. I already had my quote, the Alvin Toffler quote about literacies, but it gave me a whole list of just quotes that could go along with my presentations. Thanks. I didn't have to go look for them. It was just give me some quotes on the theme of AI. Here you go. Wonderful, right? I still have to make sure that those were actual quotes, by the way, right? Because they might misquote something that is absolutely not real. It's like Talladega Nights has that intro where I think Hillary Clinton is quoted as having said something about what is it? If you're not first, you're last. I forget what the big comment is in that movie, but I digress. Finally, benefits for writing instruction. I'm kind of skim past these a little bit. Students can use LLMs to help stimulate thought. Yes. Yes, 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 100%. We can go through some examples, and we will in the next session, but if we have a few minutes, I can show you some stuff on ChatGPT. Students can use generative AI to produce creative materials. Yes, absolutely. I do it all the time myself. I'm much more productive and creative now with AI than I have ever. So this is what they say when they say that someone with, AI won't replace you, but someone with AI will replace you. That's what they mean, by the way. It's like, I'm a super producer now, but not everybody should be, nor should they be expected to. If you're passionate about it, great. But the point is, can you somehow use these tools to be more efficient, to cut time for the right reasons, right? Not just to cut time, to devote better time to the students. Teachers can integrate LLMs into the writing process to enhance the students' rhetorical knowledge. I've already used it a few times to ask for just, give me a very persuasive speech. And it just writes a creative speech, and I have the students go through and analyze it rhetorically, tell me ethos, pathos, logos, break it down, and then they wonder who wrote it. So it's like, well, the AI did, but let's talk more about that. And understanding that it's learning a language model's response, and that it's not really someone reasoning, but that it sounds like it is. It's just another conversation to have in the classroom, right? Teachers can use LLMs to offer practical demonstration of some key rhetorical concepts. Again, if you're lacking the examples, I hate to sort of make it sound like it'll fix your problems when you're late, or you're like running short, or you forgot the handout or whatever, but it can solve those moments where you're like, I forgot my questions for this essay. 5 seconds, you got your questions right there if you run it through a chatbot. I don't think that's detrimental, that's empowering. Teachers can use LLMs to offer new processes for students developing multimodal writing genres. I've done that by having my student who came up to me saying he couldn't write outlines, create an outline with AI. And then we talked about the outline. He removed 2 sections, added 2 sections, went home, wrote the paper. When the third paper came time to write that, he didn't come to me for an outline. He just had one. I was like, great job. Because I know how you did it, right? I know how you did it now, because you were stuck. He literally was like, I cannot move forward, I'm stuck. So we use that tool to help him get unstuck. Teachers can use LLMs to quickly generate different models of response and stimulate discussion. Yeah, again, we're going to do a lot of this stuff live at the next session. Teachers and students can use LLMs to complement existing tools for English language learners, such as dictionaries, etc. And writers who come from diverse and various linguistic and educational backgrounds may benefit from more sophisticated grammar style, etc., etc. I mean, all you get is more examples to work from. It's using a standardized English, but that means that it's extra practice for anybody who's lacking those structural elements of the language. It's just you're getting more practice of the quote unquote language of power, which we sort of already went over here. Now, again, the AI policy then addresses most of those concerns, like most of them. If there was any that weren't addressed, it was those that I didn't sound like I was really against. Like, we can quickly debunk this but the ones that are addressed are the ones that would put this power in the hands of the students and not allow them to misuse it. It's like, here's how you use it properly, and if you use it this way, you'll never suffer a penalty because you won't be plagiarizing, you will be reasoning for yourself, you will be producing the writing yourself, you'll just be thinking with this tool. You'll be using it as a calculator in this composition process. So OpenAI has provided some other resources as well. There is this Teaching with AI website that I linked here. It has functional resources with frequently asked questions. You can go through that, and it really breaks down some important things about, how do you build quizzes, tests, lesson plans, curriculum materials? How do you role play and challenge conversations using AI? How do you reduce friction for non-English speakers? And that one right there is one of the ones that for me is like, listen, this has a lot to do with equity if we're talking about empowering certain communities to be part of conversations they've not been part of before. And they're still using this technology to master those inherent skills that they must master in language. So it's just a recursive, redundant tool from that point of view for me. Teaching students about critical thinking. Yeah, you can do that with this tool. You can think critically through it. There has really been nothing else that's interesting from my point of view that you can bring into the classroom. Like whether that be across the disciplines, like we could all make use of it in all our disciplines. So how you talk about it is one of those things. Now here's some example prompts, and here's the actual prompt to come up with a lesson plan. Here's a prompt to create explanations, examples, and analogies. I mean, it walks you through what to do with OpenAI. So that's one resource. There is also this one here, which is the one that we're actually going to go through. This is the Dr. Ethan Malik and Dr. Lilac Malik paper, Wharton School of University of Pennsylvania, Wharton Interactive. Not that long ago. This is just June, right, a few months ago. And what they do is they examine the transformative role of large language models in education and their potential as learning tools, despite the inherent risks and limitations. So it's like, okay, this breaks down everything that we just broke down, but with more prompting. So when we go through it, let me just show you, these are some of the things that they say that it will be able to do. Here are some of the risks, which mirror some of the ones that we talked about in here already. And then, here is the actual prompt. Let me just show you one so you can see sort of what we'll be doing next time. So this is a prompt, and it tells you what part is what, right? So here's the role and the goal in the red, and here are the constraints in the yellow, and here's the step-by-step instructions you're going to give in the purple. It just tells you how to structure the prompt so that it will render the results that you want. So here's a good example of creating an AI mentor, right? You tell it this, it responds, yes, I'm ready. And then you give it your command, and then it responds, and then you tell it what you want, and then it produces what you wanted. So it's a sort of back and forth process. Like, hey, I'm going to feed you something. Did you get it? I did. Okay, I'm going to give you something else. Did you get it? I did. Okay, now produce what I asked you for. Got it. It's more advanced type of prompting is the point. So this whole document, if you just want to print it and look at these examples, maybe not all of them are worth your time. It's a lot of information, but one or two of them, check them out. And we're going to work on a few of these at the next activity. So if you're curious about some of them, we will be checking them out. Against plagiarism, no? Also, I had to include this, right? Because too many people are concerned with plagiarism. It is a major focus, and there are tools in place to address plagiarism and AI writing. I will say that even GPT-0, when you sort of go through it, and it sort of tells you that it's a flawed tool. It's like, listen, maybe we'll get the percentage right. Maybe we won't, because the AI is getting better and better at hiding the fact that it was AI as well. Right? So it's changing its wording a bit. It's just less, when you run it through, it won't tell you it'll be 30% AI, it'll be 15%, even if it's 100%. AI written is the point here. So GPT-0 is a good tool. Detection, great. But I don't think it's the right approach. I think it goes back to that red bullet point that they showed about policing being detrimental to students and them feeling, like policing is not the way, I don't think. So final point here, we are done with the presentation. AI is becoming increasingly prevalent in education. So let's talk about it. 2, AI should be used responsibly and ethically. Keyword on should. AI can be a powerful tool for improving learning outcomes and efficiency. It could also not. And AI can become a powerful tool for ethics, but the can become is very important to consider, because it doesn't mean that it has to go that way. And the idea of empowering traditionally marginalized groups to level societal playing fields, for me, is kind of the definition of equity. So that's what it does. I lack language practice, but this will help me get there. Okay, I've got a pocket tutor that I can take with me wherever I go, and anytime I need to read something, it will help me understand. That's empowering your ability to communicate and be literate, again, from my point of view. So, are you or your students writing about AI in the classroom? We have a call for papers. It doesn't have to be only English. It can be anyone across the disciplines. There's a prompt available at the site insideenglish.online. It will be published for the Type Up Pacific Coast group, is sort of our Region 10 in San Diego of the California colleges of the coast. I am the rep for Region 10, and so I'm putting on this publication for us. Inside English, we'll talk about, let me show you the call for papers actually. This is, oh no, what happened? I refuse to connect. All right, let's try it one more time. Maybe it's because of, it's all good. If you go to it yourself and you click on the submissions tab, it should work. It's just because it's only linking one URL that's not working. But under the submissions tab, all I'm asking you for is if you are someone who is interested in AI, working with AI, writing about it, if your students are writing about it, if they're remotely interested and have something to say about it, this is a good place to publish for that. We'll be talking specifically about writing in the age of AI. So Submissions are being accepted right now through the 31st of this month. No, October. October 31st is when submissions are being accepted through. I might just extend that deadline because we want to get as many submissions as possible. And when that's published, maybe we'll throw in some artwork from the community as well, and it'll be a publication that we'll send out to all colleges. So it's a good place to look into for more on this conversation. If you want to add into it, you can. And then finally, thank you for coming. Hope you found our time productive. There are a few more of these that we'll be doing. So September 22nd is the next one. I don't actually know if we're going to do them at the same time. So maybe we can vary the time if it's more convenient to do so, but we can talk about it afterwards maybe.
Okay.
The next one is harnessing the power of AI prompts. So we'll go into more advanced prompting. The third one is enhancing efficiency. So grading and assessing with AI for educators. That one will definitely be a fun one with practical ways of cutting time. Number 20, the fourth one is art from words, unleashing creativity with AI for educators. So that one is more about the artwork and less about the writing. Still prompting, but now you're prompting art. And then finally, AI innovators is a sort of entrepreneurship-focused AI conversation. So as we're, I was working with the rec center here on campus. A lot of entrepreneurial individuals go through that. There's a lot of focus on tech, and I was really interested in that. So I think bringing in that community, innovation, entrepreneurship into the marketing, rhetoric side of things, art side of things, it just makes sense. It just fits. So if you need to contact me for any reason, there's my email. If you want to check out my immersive site, it's the Syllaverse. Check that out. And that is all. So,
there's a couple of things from the chat.
Let's address them. Yeah, we've got a few minutes left, obviously. We'll save questions. The Canva is passively there for your usage, so I'll check that back later. It'll be live. You can keep adding to it even as we go throughout the semester. So yeah, what are the concerns?
So, and we will need to figure out how to share that, everyone. So for those who are on Zoom, it is the first slide of the presentation. There are 2 QR codes. Unfortunately, we weren't able to share the screen at that point, so we apologize for that. But if you, that would be amazing. I will have to do that also. So I'll have to figure out how to get back there. But there's a few questions. So one is a request, and I know that you're doing this, so I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about it. But a request to put these things into practice. So during the sessions for people to be using ChatGPT, for example. So could you talk a little bit about what the series will entail in terms of the doing? I know we heard a little bit about that with grading, for example.
For sure, yeah. So the second session will be advanced prompting session. So if you want to get a little bit of a leg ahead, you can look at that. What's his name? The gentleman who Malik. If you look at that one, we're basically going to run through 2 of those together. I'll also be showing you how I use it myself. So we'll pull up the chat prompt and we'll input prompts, get the outputs. I would like everybody using it at one of the sessions. So we have planned to bring laptops in and have people actually using them if you are in person. If you're obviously at home, you can do it. Just go to the site, start typing. But yeah, we're going to input, we're going to get outputs. We're going to look at drafting, prompting, brainstorming, outlining, all with AI. In the third session, where we do the grading, we'll actually run some of those drafted responses through to get some feedback. So you can see what it looks like, right? Like how it sounds and what type of feedback it gives. And so, yeah, we're going to basically run through all that actually step by step, just take our time. So this was the only workshop that was almost like catching up and informative, mostly about what is AI and why are we in this conversation. The next one is advanced prompting, so that one goes into detail. The third one is grading with AI. So again, more hands-on activities that really produce active results. You'll have stuff working with you just in your hands. The fourth one was the one on AI. That one is good if you're producing artwork for your stuff. So I don't actually have, oh, this was created with AI, not this. This graphic that I had, this one, that's an AI graphic. So I made that on Midjourney. And again, how did I create that will be actually what you do create. So you'll come in with an idea for what you want to make, and we'll go through iterations of it until we produce something that you feel, oh, that's it, that's the one, you know? And I would use that somewhere as a piece of artwork. So that would be the fourth one, and then the fifth one is just conceptual, but in that one, I'm bringing in a tool. It's like a third-party tool and maybe a speaker if I'm able to bring them in, and they'll talk about assessment and grading and all that.
Excellent. Thank you so much. There are also a couple of questions about, or I guess requests for how to use AI in conjunction with Turnitin.
You don't need to
Canvas.
do anything. Turnitin.com is already integrated. So I think through Canva, you just turn on the toggle. I don't actually use Turnitin.com, like I said, but it shouldn't be any different from what I understood. It's just a full integration, and it will give you the percentage of AI generation when you run it through. So it works much the same as the plagiarism, right? It gives you a certain percentage of this content has been found outside of, et cetera. So that's kind of how that works.
You have to be very careful about you point out
Yeah.
I work online for another school, and they originally using Turnitin, and after about 3 weeks they shut it off.
Yeah, and again, if you really look at the 4 C's working paper, they tell you up front, don't police. That's not really what's going to do it. It gives off the wrong impression. See, AI is a tool that will empower people, regardless of how you feel about it. This is how I phrase my AI policy, because it's here and it's dominant in a lot of public and private sector conversations. So we have to talk about it in academia, because students will either bring it in and try to get it over your head, or they just won't know how to use it, and they'll be lacking a literacy again. That is just, it's what you can do with it is amazing. So if you actually wanted a quick example of how it'll work, maybe we can end with this. So why don't we create a new presentation using AI? Let's do that. So here is the 2 choices that you get. Do you want to generate something from a new word or phrase?
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Is there a way, if when you give me the link to this, that I can see this? Because I have to share everything that you're doing. How do I get?
So just create me.
How do I get back? Can you come quick?
Yeah.
How do I get out of the presentation to? Because you just give me the link, right, to the presentation. So I'm at the presentation.
Let me see if it'll. You should be able to sort of follow along.
See, they
here.
can only see this little clip.
What if we just?
No, see, it's on here, and I don't.
Okay. Can we just like angle the owl?
I don't know.
Sort of can. All right.
Can you all see this? It's going to be a very small icon.
Um,
Oh, Bear. Yeah, Bear. Do you want to jump in?
yeah.
Do you know how to use owls?
No, I have no idea. I'm not tech savvy at all. I just wanted to respond to the Turnitin. Our Canvas does not have that ability yet. I'm looking at how to. I'm currently looking right now at how to customize Turnitin settings, and there's nothing about AI at all. And I don't know if that's just we haven't updated our version yet, or what the situation is with that. But according to our Canvas, the only things you can do to customize it is to exclude bibliographic materials, exclude quoted materials. And there's no settings anywhere that say to search for AI generation. So I mean, I don't doubt that it does that Turnitin does that, but whatever version we're using, I don't think does it yet.
Okay, thank you, Bear. So it was very quiet for those in the room. The laptop's on 100 in terms of volume, but we can't hear it. So thankfully I could hear it. What Bear was explaining was that it seems like our version of Turnitin does not have that
but wait.
setting.
Okay.
It sounds like maybe other people could see reports and they were getting percentages, and it sounds like even interpreting that is potentially problematic, because of this. It can say it's 30% and it's really 100%. So it sounds like it's potentially problematic, even if we do have access to it.
But I mean, at least
I feel
it's
like
something. But
people
be,
like
both
use a false sense of security.
Leonore and Marcy are saying it
Same reason I
was.
didn't use Turnitin myself was like
So
I can gauge for those things that people gauge for in the classroom.
Yeah, yeah. And so Leonore's got her hand up. Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, for sure.
I can't, oh, here we go. Yes, last semester, I graded my final research paper with an indication to submit it through Turnitin. And I got 3 students reported with a percentage of AI generated material that was not cited, even though I had included instructions on how to cite it.
Okay,
Okay,
good
but
to know.
where-
Thank you for letting us know that you did have access to that. So it sounds like an important message, you know, that we should be careful about, you know,
okay, but
However,
that. Yeah.
it was my understanding. It was my understanding that it was a trial. The use of the Turnitin was a trial for AI, so it's possible that it was not renewed this
Yeah,
semester.
that could definitely
okay,
be the case.
was it a setting in the when you set up the assignment? Where was it?
It was when you create the assignment, the plagiarism check Turnitin. I requested that they be submitted through that.
Right.
I don't
the ability to
remember.
kind of integrate it. It just it wasn't, I think, the right approach, and they're acknowledging that. I mean, the student who created ChatGPT 0, GPT 0, the student who was like, "Oh, you're gonna use AI for everything? Well, I'll find a way of tracking it." So it's a student created product. Useful, maybe, but I think with the MLA CCC Joint Task Force paper showing is that penalizing and policing is not the right approach. If you really want them to see this as a valuable skill, valuable literacy to learn, you're telling me not to learn it if it's taboo. I can't use this means I'm not going to actually devote time.
Right,
But
I
let's
understand that.
just quickly sort of like go through this just to show you an
All right,
action.
so let's see if this helps
What
everyone.
did
I'm
it
not
look
sure.
like?
Do you see?
This is
No.
yeah. If you can see it, and maybe for the second presentation, we'll think of a different way of setting this up. But I just want to show you how seamless it is. We're gonna do a presentation, a document, or a web page. Right? Let's do a presentation since that's what we're talking about. Now, what do you want the presentation to be about? We don't even need a topic. Give me a topic. Yes, you. A topic. No, you. Yeah, a topic. Anything.
Topic, color theory and why it's cool.
Color theory, nice. That's all I'm gonna write actually. And let's go ahead and send the next. And it says interesting, wow. Oh, look at that. Definition of color theory, importance of color design, the color wheel. Oh, does that sound like it's pretty good? Would that be a fine presentation to create? Let's do it. Now let's choose a style. Should we just go surprise me? Let's just skip all the bells and whistles. Surprise me. Just make it some awesome. I'm happy to just continue. And there it goes. Hands off the controller, people. I'm doing nothing here. There it goes. Oh, color harmony. Gotta learn about that. Analogous colors. Great to know. Forgot about those. Color psychology. Oh my God, I need that. Color in different design fields. You're right. Design fields are part of this conversation too. Oh my God. Okay, now we're done, people. Let's do it. Present. All right. Color theory. Let's do this. And just click your way through is my point. I mean, how fast was that? Pretty good, right? And the thing is, in that step where we told it to just run, we could have corrected what it was going to work on, right? We could have told it, no, not that section, this other section. And it would have filled in the blanks. So now what we can go through is make this better, improve upon it, add more details, really emphasize what we're going to present, right? Would this be useful for students in the classroom who have to do presentations? We don't have to worry about the design as much anymore. The actual presentation of it, the performance of it. Well, yeah, it looks great already. I don't got to work on the aesthetics. So this is just one example anyway. You can change it up later if you don't like the theme. Let's make it black now. right. Just because. So that's one tool, just one, that we can make use of, and it's free. For now, right? It might not be forever, but it is for now.
What is
This is gamma.app. Gamma.app. And it is your new best friend for creating presentations.
all my presentations are going?
Hey. And you can do them as presentations or websites. So literally, you could do the same exact thing, and it'll be a scrolling vertical page instead of a slideshow type of thing, but it'll be a website, or even a handout or a document. Now, we created the presentation here using some words, but if you already have a handout and you just upload the handout, it'll read what's there and add to it and make it better. So it's just crazy that we have this tool available. This is in beta. I'm sure you see here that the AI is, when you use it, you are using up credits. So there's 350 credits that I have here. I don't remember how you get credits because this is in beta. But the point is, at some point I had like 400. So I was like, let me use some. And every time that you use AI, it eats up some of your credits. So you can use it for free without using up any AI credits. You can just create presentations yourself with these tools. But if you want the AI application, then it does cost credits. And so there is a pro that's coming and all those things. But now we're talking then about how do we empower ourselves to have access to these tools so we can use them for our students and show them, as opposed to being locked behind a paywall, right? The upgrade to pro, and only some people get to use it. Now we're creating the same inequities that we were talking about before. Cool.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
so the reason I was not paying attention is to play with ChatGPT. But one of the things that you say is kind of, prompting to help you teach or help your students learn. So I have a test that I'm giving in pre-calculus this week. And what I'm typing in ChatGPT is like, give example problems for composition of polynomials, radical, and rational functions.
And were you
That's one of the
amazed?
objectives. So it's giving me like 10 different problems on that objective. So I could use them to put them on my exam, but I could also tell my students, how are you going to study for this test? So I could help them with the prompts that they could put in.
Exactly.
So give this prompt to ChatGPT and let it generate a bunch of problems that you can practice on.
Have it generate problems with mistakes and have them correct them, right? Have it generate certain solutions, and then they have to reverse engineer the equation. You know what I mean? Like,
some of them would, you can say, generate a solution.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
But yeah.
well, I do that one with grammar, right? I'm like, give me something full of mistakes, please. And then I give that to the students. I'm like, correct this, find the mistakes. It's sometimes it's menial activities. They seem like it, but no, they're helpful in helping them. Okay, this is what it means to know grammar. And when you're working with prompting, you just have to make use of it because the commas matter and the semicolon matters. Or an M dash matters. Like, oh, we're talking grammar like that for prompting. Yes, we are. So
the challenge I'm seeing with this is that it gives a bunch of problems, but they might not be the right level that I'm looking at. So when the students are putting these prompts in and comes up with 10 problems, it might be hard for them to judge what level it's.
yes.
Right, so kind of honing that skill.
Now, what if there was a solution that adjusted the grade level for you?
Well, I think it's also, I don't think that's like a hugely bad deal, because if they were paying attention in the type of problems that I give on homework and the quizzes that I give them,
right,
then they should kind of know
right,
what level I'm expecting.
Right, yeah.
So it's like, this is not in a vacuum.
Yeah.
They need to be paying attention.
And this
to the
one more
feedback that, yeah.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. That's how I hope that people will realize it can be used, so that we can drop some of the conversations about how it's just the end of writing and the end of this and the end of that. It's like, it's not really the end of anything. It's the beginning of a new literacy and the beginning of an application of this new literacy into what we do. But this is no different again than when we had to transfer to campus. And we were on Blackboard, right? And we were on whatever Moodle, whatever LMSs we're using now. You know what I mean? Like, it's always a learning curve. I mean, you're an online faculty coordinator, but you know what I mean? Like, you were telling us all about all of those things. So these are just the newer tools that came out as of April, let's say, maybe. And so we're working at them now, and they'll develop and they'll update and they'll change. And so hopefully we'll have enough. I mean, I'll be here just doing my thing, and if anybody's interested, right, come to the presentations. We'll host more of these, obviously. But in any case, I would love to hear a few more comments or questions or concerns before we close it out if there are any. Is there anything in the Zoom?
No, it seems like most folks had to go,
Okay.
so we're down just to a couple people.
Cool, no worries. Yeah, but again, I thank you guys for coming to this first one. It's mostly an introductory catch up. The next ones will be a bit more technical. And yeah, appreciate it. Thanks. First.